Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us here at The New Normal. Today, we have Dr. Reg McDaniel joining us to talk about the benefits of blueberries right after this. Welcome back, Dr. McDaniel. Good to have you.
Thank you.
So, spring has sprung, and I noticed the title of today's presentation was talking about benefits of blueberries. And I know you wanted to share a few things with us first.
Well, we started out this Zoom lecture series because the American society, much as I personally was indoctrinated with what I call the philosophy of the sickness industry, made primarily up of conventional medicine, pharmaceutical industry, and its watchdog, the Food and Drug Administration, or FDA. And as we went along, things have changed so much in the knowledge base since 1985, when I first got started in this 38 years ago, is that the World Health Organization and National Geographic magazine, which I understand is probably one of the most broadly published and circulated documents in the world, have identified blue zones that people there are primarily on islands or isolated peninsulas that live up to 90 independently, and some of them over 100. And throughout history, there's been a lot of philosophers and individuals that have written on the desire for a long life and in good health. And in fact, I remember in the exploration of North America that Ponte de Leon was in the Florida area looking for the spring or fountain of youth.
Uh-huh.
And so that's been a long-term thing, but we've been kind of realizing that there are common denominators of all these blue zones, that is primarily diet and exercise. And then they talk about quality of life or lifestyles to avoid unhealthy activities like smoking or burning trash and sucking it into your lungs, and excess toxins like too much alcohol, whatever form it might be in. And one of these things is that I'm going to emphasize today, that's beyond the fact that you can accomplish a lot of this by utilizing New Eden added to your diet, which are nutrient molecules that used to be in the family garden and orchard.
Mm-hmm.
When you allowed the produce to ripen on the plant, you didn't pick a peach a week or so ahead of time while it was green, bring it in, set it on the shelf just like any of your vegetables. You let it ripen on the plant, and the important thing is that the genes in the plant put nutrient molecules that we need, our genes call for in cellular synthesis to make bioactive molecules that carry on the biochemistry and physiology of life. And so I'm going to give a little off the track about you need to make some personal choices in your general diet. And there are three major areas that in your general diet you should give attention to. And one of them is cruciferous vegetables. This is something that in this country we tend to not eat: cabbage or turnips or broccoli or cauliflower, radishes, because they have a little bite to them, and you can't threaten children enough to get them to eat them. Yet this is a source of a very important amino acid that has a sulfur attached to it called cysteine, which is in these plants, that is the rate limiting amino acid to make glutathione, which is very important inside the cell because the cell mitochondria develop energy to run our body, kind of like DC circuit. Our bodies are electrical. And in doing this, free radicals are generated that can attach to membranes in the cell, or worse, even to DNA, because the molecules determine the function of these membranes, and the sequence of molecules in DNA or in our genes are instructions. So when these free radicals that are generated by the mitochondria, if they attach to the genes, can alter it, and it's called a mutation. And the worst mutation is development of malignancies, which include leukemias, lymphomas, cancers, and sarcomas. So it's very important that you have cruciferous vegetables, and we will focus on broccoli because more research has been done on broccoli than any other.
Really?
In addition, you need to have a choice of berries, because we will tell you why that's important in this thing, to have not only strawberries, blueberries, grapes, raspberries in your diet. The fact is, I can remember grandmother saying, if you want to be healthy, have different colors of fruits and vegetables. Yeah. Well, that's true of the berries. The different colors have different molecules that are important in our nutrition. And then the other thing is that nuts are very important, and seed and legumes. And the one of those that has been studied more than any others are walnuts. And I'll have to tell you, I don't know whether this is due to the fact that the industries that develop these paid more money than others, but those are the big three that we're going to talk about today that you should include in your general diet. Because you do not have to move to the islands or the isolated peninsulas where the blue zone, longevity and good health, exists. You can do it in your own home, in your choice. And proof of this is that one of these places of the blue zones is not an island or a peninsula, but over in California, it's Loma Linda University area. There's about 9,000 people sitting there in the middle of California, not far from Las Vegas, that are one of the blue zones. And so more and more people are learning from this, what I hope is important. And I have in my hands again two little flat magnets. And the reason I have them here is because if you put the north and the south and all that, you can hear them just jump together. But you can turn them this way, and they reject each other. You can't see it in there, but you can feel a resistance. Well, molecules that are too small to see have charges on them that are either positive or negative. And these cruciferous vegetables, the blueberries and the nuts, produce molecules that keep these free radicals from attaching to portions of the cell and the chromosomes. They bind them so that they together like this. When I snap them together, and maybe when you were young, you had a little black and white Scotty dog with a little magnet under them, and you can have had that experience. Well, that's going on in the fluids of your cells. And so we'll go to the first slide to get started in this about what you should do in your diet, that you don't have to move to an isolated island or peninsula to get the benefits. And more has been done research on blueberries than any others. And one of the things is that berries have anthocyanins, anthrocanins, and I'll show you the molecular structure of them and how this structure varies just a little bit with each berry in different colors. And this molecular structure has important with what it will bind to as free radicals inside the cells. And when the free radicals attach to something, that's called oxidative activity or oxidative damage. And what you want to do is have in your diet these different berries, which blueberries is the one we will focus on because the most research has been done on it. But the positives and the negatives attract to each other. And maybe you hear the click of this is happening in your cells right now. And I can give you an example of the importance of this is that very important in the electrolytes in your serum are salt, and that's sodium chloride. Well, the sodium molecule alone, if you mix with water, is virtually explosive because it releases the oxygen molecules with a big bang. And the chlorine as a gas was used in World War I in the trenches because it will stay close to the ground and follow and all, and it was a poisonous war gas. But when you combine them together, while this positive charge of the sodium and the negative charge of the chlorine, you get salt, which is essential for life in our serum. So these are things that you need to have at least a foggy idea of the importance of diverse molecules being present in your diet and making choices. Just like grandmothers used to say, if you want to be healthy, eat different colors of different fruits and vegetables. Let's go to the next slide, please.
Okay.
Now, I pointed out that one of the worst aspects of free radicals, which berries will attach to just like my little magnets in my finger and make them inactive, and they don't attach to the membranes or to the DNA. And one of these is the worst of all is to prevent cancer if you have a good broad diet. And one of the worst points of breast cancer is when you have the genetic things is in certain families called the HER sequence that's familial, and the benefits of blueberries prevents HR familial changes in the genes, and the other growth factors that make cancer cells and make them metastatic to spread through the body are neutralized by these various different berries and the anthocyanins. And this has been shown in mice, and it increasingly seen in oncology research or cancer tumors. And in fact, at Texas A&M, Dr. Busby was able to show that the key ingredient in New Eden, which we keep talking about as being a very important molecule to start off to improve your diet and become in your family the benefits of the blue zone. He was able to show that metastasis was blocked by the acetylated mannose that comes from the aloe plant that's in New Eden. There's the next slide, please. Now, it's kind of faint, but we have the molecular structures there, and to the far right, we have the general structure of three cyclic things. It's the general structure of anthocyanins, but they vary just a little bit for each berry, as we see outlined there. And this is important to have broad choices in your diet to have different kinds of berries, but the most principal one of all of them and the most potent is your blueberries, which has been extensively researched. Next slide, please. But that's the structure in general that's in them. And blueberries bind to the free radicals generated by the mitochondria, and they prevent oxidative damage to the membranes in the cells of the cell, as well as the attachment to genes, which alters those instructions. But blueberries also have vitamin K, which is very important in the coagulation process. They are a source of the mineral manganese. They're abundant vitamin C, and you also will find copper. And there are other micronutrients that are required in cellular synthesis, which is one of the things that really surprised me as I got involved in this, and it grew from 1985 to the present, that again and again in the plant kingdom are the molecules that our DNA requires in our cells that controls cellular synthesis to hook these molecules that are in the plants together to make a very important compounds that are bioactive to run the biochemistry and physiology of life. Next slide, please. Now, this anthocyanins, the pigment, is water soluble, which is very important because that's the principal fluid of our serum. And in journal articles, particularly published in 2017 in the journal Food and Nutrition Research, that the blueberries improve vision, that they're good for supporting neurological health. That's be the function of the nervous system as well as the brain. And that there are benefits in blueberries for your heart and the major blood vessels, and for diabetes 1 and diabetes 2, which are alterations in metabolism of management, particularly of glucose. We've mentioned before that the blueberries are beneficial to help reduce the changes in the cell that result in malignancies or cancer. And then there are 80 types of autoimmune diseases because each antibody is for different types of cells that it will attach to, which gives you the different syndromes that make up the autoimmune disease spectrum. And blueberries help block preventing this. And just recently, I was notified of a patient in Germany, actually southern Germany, and she had rheumatoid arthritis in the last year of dental school, and she had to drop out and never got her license, but she had pain and terrible disabilities from autoimmune disease that no drug could help for over 40 years. However, she got a supply through my brother of the New Eden, and within 2 weeks, all her pain that she had had for years that no drug could stop was gone. And she has gotten benefits for other autoimmune diseases like for the thyroid, and her vision is improved, and she is feels like she has a new life 40 years after being blocked from being able to finish dental school because of her rheumatoid arthritis, which is one of the worst autoimmune diseases. Next slide, please. Now, in the International Journal of Molecular Sciences, they stress this, what I've been telling you, and have these little magnets in my hand about how the molecules in the berries, and in particularly blueberries, bind to free radicals so that they don't bind to the membranes or the DNA, and this prevents oxidative damage. And this oxidative damage is where the free radical attaches to charge sites on the molecules of the normal structures of the cell. Also, that the blueberries in this article contain certain tannins and a classification that I'm not sure how you pronounce that. It's ELLIAGITANNINS. That's a plant molecule, which are phenolic compounds. You've heard us mention before that one of the big benefits in plants is polyphenol compounds to bind to free radicals, and it prevents inflammation, which is a very major chronic disease causing process, and that it's good for your heart and vascular system, or your cardiovascular system. And as we've mentioned time and again, it retards carcinogenesis, or the development of mutations that lead to cancer. Next slide, please. In medical chemistry, in the year 2013 publication, they again stress the anti-cancer fruit they call the blueberries, that it should be very high in your dietary supplementation program. And in this medical chemistry journal, they have not only in tissue culture, but clinical studies in humans that the blueberries block gene mutations, which leads to the cancer that we keep stressing. That these berries are super fruit, as they call the blueberries in this article, and stress its anti-cancer activity in this publication. Next slide, please. Now, in addition, in Epic Times article, they point out that 40% of the U.S. population is predicted to get cancer. So that makes it very important to include this in your dietary choices. And there's nothing that has been researched better than blueberries, though all the berries are important, as we were showed by those different structures that benefit. Also, that they point out in an article in Epic Times that the China virus, as I call it, which is the coronavirus pandemic, that people under 46 years are showing a marked increase of the autoimmune disease problems, and that including the blueberries and the other berries in your diet will help counteract this. At the National Foundation for Cancer Research, they point out that blueberries contain molecules in them that synergize or make better radiation therapy when you're having radiation. And they again stress in this journal that you should include blueberries in your diet to prevent cancer. And the same thing is in the journal Pathology Oncology Research. And in this one, they stress that one of the used to be very common cancer in females before pap smears, that blueberries are very active in being antiviral and making sure that dysplastic cells from the cervix don't occur if you have blueberries in your diet. Next slide, please. You can see the extensive different journals have really focused on blueberries, which I've been trying to stress, and that the care of blueberries is that all berries should be washed, because there may be pesticide residues to keep insects from going after these succulent little morsels, and that you should keep blueberries in dark containers and not in the sunlight. That it's good for preservation of blueberries to put them in the refrigerator in a moisture-proof container. and that these berries in a dark moisture-proof container keep well for up to 10 days. And they point out that canned blueberries are active in all these benefits we've been talking about for up to 13 months. They've stole in thing, and that storage can drop the bioactivity as much as 50%. And they recommend that if the juice will last longer if you keep it refrigerated in a dark bottle, and that a little bit of vodka added to it or alcohol in the cold causes the desirable molecules in blueberries to be preserved by the ethyl alcohol and vodka. Next slide, please. Now, this is a example that can be used over and over again. It applies to research articles that appear in journals between 1984 to the year 2023. And this is the articles that are on broccoli. As I mentioned, it is an example of the cruciferous vegetables, but this graph that you see here is well, for example, in a Italian journal, a graph almost like this was present for research articles on the oligosaccharides, and it's the same for all the berries. As there's an explosion of knowledge of how important a broad choice in your diet of of different types of food. And this is just the articles on broccoli, but it could be very similar for blueberries or raspberries or Brazil nuts or pecans or peanuts. But as I say, the previous research indicates that blueberries are the most prominent of all of them. And this is the example of the choice we're taking of the cruciferous vegetables, of the number of articles, and it's the recognition in science of how important nutrition is in our diet. And I would say when I got involved in this in 1985, that this is a good graph of the attention and recognition our society is having, as well as professionals, particularly primary care physicians that are in direct contact with the patient and the entire family, are recognizing the importance of nutrition. And this led to, as I've said before, the National Geographic magazine and the World Health Organization recognizing that there are areas that where for centuries and decades that a broad general diet and exercise have been practiced. In some of these areas, they don't have just a whole lot of mechanization or electricity, and they do a lot of labor, that their exercise is in their daily activities like fishing and gardening and farming in these isolated areas of low population. Next slide, please. Now, some of these phytonutrients, the biochemistry can be complex, and we speak of cruciferous vegetables, but like in broccoli, the molecule there that is present is called, and I, again, with my Texas tongue, they call it glucoraphanes. And there is an enzyme that reacts with the broccoli, and this makes the sulforaphane, which is the important molecule that all the cruciferous vegetables have in them. But the important thing of this little thing is that excess cooking destroys this sulforaphanes. And if you remember on one of our lectures on the cat colonies of Bryce Pottinger, Foundation is that 40% of the diet should be raw, and they're advocating that, particularly with broccoli, that very slightly heated broccoli or raw broccoli with dipped into a sauce is a better way and preserves these sulforaphanes which are produced. And this is, again, that in the blue zones, the common denominator of them is plant-based diet. Their exercise in these areas is more in their daily activities, like following sheep or goats and herding, and that in our modern cities, such as Loma Linda, there's more of a tendency to go to exercise clinics to increase the amount of exercise daily, but trying to work that into it. And they have found that if you walk at least 3 miles a week, that's the minimum amount of exercise. And you can do this with bicycles. You can have these things that you walk on that has a endless loop with a motor on it to get exercise. But about 90% of the benefits of the blue zones you can do in your own personal diets by diet and exercise. But then they point out that lifestyles and human interactions and finding a purpose in life is very important. And I'm reading a book of the first funding of a research done by National Geographic, and they put a lot of emphasis on the reaction, the relationship of your family members, your extended family, your neighbors, your friends, the people you know in church or organizations, and that having a community activity or a purpose, primarily what you might do with others, is very important. So you don't need to move to a blue zone to get some of the benefits of the various berries, which we have stressed blueberries is the one they have the most research on, and cruciferous vegetables, which provide a source for the cysaene molecule, a amino acid that is the rate limiting amino acid for the synthesis of glutathione that is so active and does about 60% of the free radical scavenging inside the cell to grab these free radicals that are produced by the mitochondria.
Wow.
Next slide, please. Now, we've mentioned how important the berries are, and they block this binding that is oxidative damage, and that all these different journal articles stress how these free radicals, if they attach to the chromosomes, can modify the genetic instructions that control cellular synthesis, and this leads to cancer. And we showed you the basic structure of the key molecule in berries, and it varies with every type of berry just a little bit. And we emphasize blueberries because there's more scientific articles on this than any other. Next slide. That we, again, in the cruciferous vegetables, it's broccoli that we point out, and the nuts, beans, legumes, and seeds, that the walnuts are the one that the most research has been done on. On the berries, it's blueberries. And before we leave nuts, beans, legumes, and seeds, these are all very special structures in nature, because in the nut, in the bean, in the legume, or the seed is provisions for the next generation of this species in that little package that contains cotyledons, which are nutrients to support the little sleeping embryo, that when it germinates, the food supply is present within the nuts, beans, legumes, or seeds for producing the first tap root and the first leaf when photosynthesis is turned on and it begins to utilize energy from the sun to grow further. And this nutrient supply that's in these seeds that has a biopolymer coating over it to protect it from being too hot, too cold, too dry, too moist, and to retard many insects or fungi, and to protect this food supply for that little embryo. And so that's a very important structure that walnuts is the key where the most research has been done. And we stress again that this is part of your general diet,
Right.
that you should make a personal choice for these to add to, say, the New Eden, which contains molecules that used to be in the family garden or orchard that come from plant molecules that you allow to ripen on the plant. And this is never chosen to be shipped to the grocery stores, because they would be rotten by the time they get there. But with new technology, you can rush them to the freeze dryer and make a powder which contains these critical nutrient molecules that in these blue zones where they have primarily a plant diet, and nearly all of them have their own garden, that the key denominators of all the blue zones is diet, exercise, your healthy lifestyles, and avoiding unhealthy lifestyles, and developing a purpose in your life. And that can be in many forms. A lot of times people choose that they want to be alive when their granddaughter or great grandson graduates from high school or college. Other times it's to be active in some group that are helping people that need support in the community. As I say, it's very important to choose to do something for others that won't get done if you don't do it. And this can vary from different places where you live. Next slide, please.
Yeah, that is really interesting. My mom and I were just having that talk this weekend. She's going through transitions after losing my father, and then some family members needing a safe harbor. She had them come stay with her, and now they've moved on, and she's kind of in this season of a new start and finding that purpose, that those projects. She's always been very busy and loves learning. So it's interesting that you're finding that as well.
Okay. We are still stressing the importance of the variety of different kinds of nuts and different kinds of seeds and different kinds of berries. And I have told you about the biopolymer that is on the outside of these structures, and that we essentially kind of piggyback the protective activity that this provides to the little embryo in the food supply in these seeds and nuts and berries and legumes, and that it gives protection to our cells. And that's why you've heard all your life that brown bread made with whole wheat that has that biopolymer on it is healthier than white bread where they've stripped off that protective coating. And also brown rice that has the biopolymer on the surface of it. And if you were to go in my kitchen at home, you would find right there on the cabinet pumpkin seed, sunflower seed, walnuts, which we end up there saying has been studied more than any other type of seed or nut. And in the refrigerator, you would find a box of blueberries. And from time to time, you'll find strawberries, which contain a molecule in them that's extremely beneficial that you don't find much of in any other berry, called fisetin, which is beneficial in our cellular synthesis. Now, let's go to the next slide, which I think is on walnuts, I hope.
It is.
And this, again, walnuts is the top source of what has been examined for free radical scavenger to keep oxidative damage from free radicals attaching to structures in the cell. And walnuts are a source of vitamin E and melatonin, which is a sort of a visual hormone. There's receptors in the eye that inform us that the sun is going down. It's time to go to sleep. And also their polyphenols, and these decrease the LDL cholesterol. And as I say, that low density lipoprotein, that L stands for lethal, and that's the lethal cholesterol is decreased by walnuts. And one of the very important things, and one of the criticisms that many people give of a high vegetable diet or vegetarian or vegan diet is that omega fatty acids are primarily high in, say, fish and meat products, but the walnut has a good source of this fatty acids, and the key one is alpha linolenic acid, and this decreases cardiovascular diseases, which is so important because it's the number one cause of death of the American male and males in developed countries. And women are coming right along behind, very close to what men have been. Also, walnuts decrease inflammation, decrease heart disease, decrease diabetes 2, and Alzheimer's, Parkinsonism, and as we've said over and over again, decrease incidence of cancer.
Wow.
The walnuts improve gut health because the friendly bacteria that are in the bowel that support health are supported by walnuts more than other types of food. Walnuts also, they decrease the appetite, and so it's good for those that want to reduce their weight management, and which is very healthy to not be excessively obese. And we have mentioned over and over again the importance of free radical binding, which I use the little magnets as an example of what these free radicals attach to, and that's walnuts reduce cancer incidence. And the biomarkers of diabetes, like daily glucose and the hemoglobin A1C and the insulin levels, are improved by walnuts in the diet. And in 50,000 females that have been studied by Harvard, the walnuts are attributed to have about a 13% reduction in physical impairments in 50,000 females that were studied. In males, walnuts are attributed in studies that increase the sperm count, the morphology of the sperm are more normal forms. And there was a study on 117 males that they were able to prove this.
Wow.
And walnuts improve brain function because they have done studies that memory and learning rates are improved, and that depression is decreased and anxiety is decreased by walnuts. And incidentally, all these things, Diamond Nuts put this on their walnut wrapper label, and the FDA sent them a cease and desist letter that you're making a medical claim for walnuts. And if you don't take this down from your website, for which the people can read, we're going to either fine you or maybe shut down your entire operation of providing walnuts. So that's one of the functions of the FDA, because in the dietary supplement law that created the dietary uh, supplement industry, in the labeling section, it states, and I paraphrase it, that only an FDA approved pharmaceutical can represent or claim to be a benefit to treat, cure, or ameliorate a disease or syndrome or correct a abnormal health condition. Well, I think you can pretty well tell from my lectures that this is not true, and that the statement in the preamble of this law, which is not law, the preamble is just a statement of why they had hearings and even considered the legislation. And in the preamble, it says science and medicine has shown that optimal nutrition is essential for good health, to prevent disease, and for restoring health. And of course, that's the reason the blue zones have been recognized, and why you should adopt personally and for your family the common denominators of the blue zones, because you don't have to move to an isolated island or peninsula to achieve these benefits, because particularly in these inflationary times, this decreases healthcare costs. It improves years of life and better health, and chronic diseases are decreased. And so it's not only economically desirable, but it's health-wise desirable to have these additional things besides the including molecules that are in New Eden, the dietary supplement that I have developed over these 38 years to replace molecules that used to be in the garden or orchard. But then you need to make some choices of some things, because these berries and nuts and cruciferous vegetables should be in your general diet. And so I hope this comes across to the listener to make some wise choices, that science is validating the fact that for decades, grandmothers and mothers have said, if you want to be healthy, eat different colors of fruits and vegetables. And we have emphasized some of this in this lecture today. Thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, especially in this time when we're seeing, new terms like turbo cancer, and things like that pop up. And after going through what I call the great infection, and people's confidence in science, I wouldn't say science as much as the medical industry is kind of falling away to have natural alternatives, but backed up with studies and actual testimonies, of people having these benefits. So, everyone, this is part of the hard work of being free and being personally responsible for your health, your wealth, your financial freedom, and your personal safety. And that's to get educated by amazing people like Dr. Reg McDaniel. If you would like to ask him a question, he's very generous with his time and knowledge. He has offered for people to be able to email him questions. He has reports and more documentation he can share with you if you have a deviation from normal in your health, that he might be able to give you some more information on. But I put the email up there on the screen for everybody, so you could make sure to get the correct email address to contact him. And then you can also go to wellnessquest.org and learn more on the website. You can also order his book, The Gift. And also, you can sign up there for your 6 months auto ship, where you also receive a free probiotic every month, along with your New Eden subscription.
Well, as we try to provide the knowledge and information, one of the big challenges to the human condition is to actually do and execute and follow through on a regular basis what we know is desirable and should be done and is healthy.
That's true. That's true. We have to do the hard work. Thank you again for joining us. I really appreciate it. I appreciate all the knowledge that you share, and the community loves you. And so thank you all to you in the live chat joining us, and sharing recipes about banana breads and with walnuts and orange apricots and all kinds of things. I think everybody's gonna you've stimulated their appetite, at least, hopefully for their brain and their health as well. So thanks again, Dr. McDaniel. Have a great day.
Thank you.